Alright, so my application development environment setup, I use the program Xcode as one of my resources. I named my project Hello World and I developed it ideally for an iPhone XR, kind of just random choice, also XS. So I have my project, it Swift creating a project from a template automatically created my two storyboards, and then these two files are where the actual code lives. A lot of this again was automatically generated, and my view controller, this is where a lot of the code exists that actually does things, makes the application run. But what I had never seen with Xcode that I really enjoy is your main storyboard is very visual, so it gives you a layout. Here's what my application would look like when it's actually running. And then you can also, let's see. Okay, yeah, so here we go. Now we can see the application right side by side next to my code that I mentioned does all the functionality of the app is in here. So you can see these dots when you hover over it, it'll show you what that piece actually relates to. And same thing with the function. So this function relates to this button. As you can see it's highlighted right there. So, yep. And then we'll go ahead and run it just to see it in the simulator. So as we see, it really mirrors what we saw in the storyboard that we could relate to the controller. So my application is a pretty simple, just proof of concept, proof of development setup, environment setup. So I create an application where I will insert my first name, insert my last name, push submit, and as you can see it says your name will appear here, and when I push submit, it concatenates the two variables and creates my first and last name as one variable for me to see right next to each other. It really was just kind of to get familiar with Swift, get familiar with Xcode because I usually work in IntelliJ, and it's been pretty useful to see everything side by side, and then the simulator, real life, this is what I would expect if I delivered this application for people to download, use, and this is exactly what they would see. So yeah, that's it. Just kidding, that's not it. I need to walk through what the code does. So I'm going to go ahead and quit the simulator. So in the code we have, like I mentioned, each of the variables, so I just created variables on the screen and then tied it to the code, and I named them as best I could in a way that it would make sense to me. This function view did load. That's basically creating everything that will appear on the landing page of this application. So you can see that the inputs that we have are our first name and our last name, and those are tied to these variables, which again are tied to the objects on the screen. This tap recognizer, this is so that whenever you click outside of the text box or the submit button, it's recognized and the keyboard will go away. And this code is obviously working with that. These are for the input box. So this one right here, when you click in, it's supposed to bring up the keyboard, and then this is the code that'll make the keyboard go away. This first name is whatever they put into it is going to be stored in the insert first name text. That's associated to that box. Last name is associated obviously to this box. And then this function, when the submit button is pushed, it's going to take your first name, it's going to take your last name, it's going to make it one variable, and then it's going to clear out the first name and the last name so that you can start over, do another name, whatever that may be. Okay, now we're done.